Put Me in Coaching family. It's been a couple of weeks, much needed time to decompress and regroup, and had a little vacation in there. So, anyway, but happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. If you are watching, go ahead, just drop a hashtag live. If you're watching live, drop a hashtag replay if you are watching the replay. Always remember, it doesn't matter when you get the information, just as long as you are getting the information. And I'm so excited about tonight's topic because it's something that I was reminded of this week. And I think it's really important to, when we talk about mindset, and this has come again, I get most of my topics, unless one of you tells me what you want to hear about, I get most of my topics just based on what's come up throughout the week and the last couple of weeks, actually. And tonight I want to talk about the idea that I got from one of my all-time favorite books. If you don't like bad language, then it's probably not a great book to read. Or if you're not a big sports fan, it might not be a great book to read. But it is one of my all-time favorite books. It's called Relentless, and it's by Tim Grover. And he has this concept of, are you a cooler, a closer, or a cleaner? And I love reading about the different mindsets, and it doesn't matter which one you are, right? That's not what it's about. It's just understanding where you're at and then figuring out what motivates you to reach your goal and how do you approach it. And the goal is obviously to become a cleaner, which is someone who just does what they need to do regardless of if they get the recognition or regardless of anything. And when you think about that in sports, that's the person that just goes out and does their job no matter what. And you may be at different areas and different aspects of your life, right? At work, you may be the get it done person. And because I remember when I worked at the assisted living, when I left there, they had to hire 3 people to do the jobs that I was doing because I just got it done. And so when you think about it, think in terms of your health goals. And that's where you want to get. You're the person that just does what they're supposed to do, regardless of the reward or the motivation. That's the habit that we talk so much about. We've read we talk so much about the book Atomic Habits. We've talked a lot about the different principles of leadership lately. And so tonight I just want to kind of switch gears and talk about what it takes to be relentless. And what I mean is relentless in the pursuit of your goals. And guess what? Once you reach the goal, you're going to set a new one. And I think it's interesting because in the book, he talks about, he was actually Michael Jordan's trainer and Kobe Bryant and some other NBA players. But he talks specifically about the idea that a lot of times people, when they reach a certain goal, like for example, in the NBA, when somebody gets their ring, that they feel like they can relax and breathe. That's what everybody else says. When in reality, it's kind of like the pressure increases a little bit, and not in a bad way, but just a, hey, I've achieved this. Let's go get another one, or let's go achieve the next goal. And I was talking with one of my business partners about this exact concept the other week when I was on vacation with a lot of my business partners, and we were just sitting around talking, and he said, what's interesting is once I achieved this first big goal that I set for myself, I found myself working harder. And that really made me reflect on when I achieved my goal weight the first time. And I really looked at it. So this was back in 2017. And I vividly remember, because I had my goal weight on these little, I had printed out little tiny squares, probably like smaller than a wallet size picture. And I had printed out these little squares and Velcroed them to my sun visor. And it had not only my goal weight, but it had the weights that I wanted to achieve with lifting. So I had my new max weights that I wanted there. And that's exactly what happens. And I vividly remember achieving my goal weight and then texting Catherine and saying, we're going to go down a little bit more. And here's why. And I still remember when I would achieve the different lifting weights or the different PRs, I would remove the Velcro and put the next one up there. And it's that visualization, right? It's the opt-in, that constant opt-in. I made the decision and then I started acting on it, right? I talk about that a lot. It's decide, commit, act, succeed, and then that fifth one, repeat. Decide, commit, act. That's step 5, behavior modification. Succeed. Look at that. Celebrate all wins. And then you repeat it. And I think that's an important concept because a lot of times we forget that life is constant change. And that's why it's important to change your why. We have to update our why as we achieve new goals. And this is what really gets me excited about really piecing together what it is we're working toward. And so in the book, and I picked out some of my favorite quotes in the book, but it says cleaners, which remember, cleaners are the people that just get it done no matter what. They've developed the habit of succeeding. Okay. Cleaners never feel external pressure. They only believe what's inside them. And this goes to that internal belief. And then a little bit later, it says, it all goes back to confidence. When you're challenged, do you bring the pressure or do you let the other guy put you into a corner? And that reminded me of a conversation I had with another business partner that I'm working on a really big goal right now. And I said, listen, I don't want it announced to anybody. I don't like the people who need to know that I'm working towards this goal. They know. But I don't want the added external pressure because I'm putting enough pressure on myself and I'm so focused and I know I'm going to achieve it. I don't want the outside conversation. And that's how I work best. When I was initially on my weight loss journey, no one knew other than the people that were around me that were watching it happen. But Catherine knew, my parents knew. And pretty much other than that, people just started to learn as they observed me, but I didn't announce it to the world. And the reason I didn't announce it to the world is because I work better. I needed to just get it done. And that's that cleaner mentality. And when you think about where you're at and the decisions you're making and the goals you're setting, we have to really understand that it all comes back to mindset. How many times do we talk about this, right? I just had this conversation with my powerlifting coach today. He gave me an entire lecture and I actually happened to be recording my workout because we record my form so that we can go back and look. And I hadn't turned the camera off and he's just standing in front of the camera, just giving this monologue. And he says, you don't have a strength problem. He said, you have one problem. And once you figure that out, you're going to move mountains. He said, it's all in your head. And a lot of that is because I've taken my focus off of those goals. I'm still doing the workouts, still showing up, still doing what I need to do, but I'm not as hardcore focused on it because I have other goals that I'm working on right now. And he understands that. And so it's just interesting to watch. And that's another thing that the book talks about. When you get so relentless about a specific goal, a lot of times other things you're not paying as much attention to. And so you don't have quite the amount of balance as you normally would. Now, that doesn't mean you live your entire life like that. But what it does mean is when you decide and commit to something. So, step one, the opt in, you get the education, you know what you have to do, then you hold yourself accountable, you track your progress, you modify your behavior, you celebrate your wins, and then you give back. And what's the way to give back? By being the best version of yourself. Show up so that you can either continue to inspire yourself or inspire others. It doesn't matter what you want to do, right? But it's that confidence. It all goes back to confidence. And, it really talks also in the book about if you decide that you don't want to reset a goal and go for something else, then you might as well retire, right? And he's talking in basketball terms, but and you think about that. It's like you should always have something that you're working toward. And it doesn't always have to be a health goal. It could be a career goal. It could be a relationship goal. It could be a spiritual goal. It doesn't matter. But you should always have something that you're working toward because we're always trying to get 1% better, right? That goes back to Atomic Habits. And so you see how all of these resources, the leadership, the Atomic Habits, Relentless, all of it is basically saying the same thing. It's just a different approach to it. And we all know I love sports, so the sports analogies really speak to me. And when we talk about working well under pressure, okay, meeting deadlines at work, I have a full-time job that I do with the state. And when I do that, it's like I have to meet my deadlines, right? And so it's just like that. We have to set goals for ourselves and track, right? It's all tracking. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to achieve the goal by this specific date. But what it does mean is you're going to do the steps that are moving you toward that goal so that the target date can be achieved. And then you adjust. And then you adjust again. And if we don't have our goals right in our face, how do we know what we're working toward? So it's really important that you always know what it is you have to do. You decide, commit, act. That act portion right in there is what do you do? What actions are you taking that specific day, that specific week, month, quarter, year, whatever it is, however long it's going to take you to achieve the goal? And I was listening to another book also, and they were talking about really make a list of everything that you want to accomplish. And then put 1, 3, 5, or 10 next to it. Meaning, is it going to take a year to accomplish? Is it going to take 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? And Laura that gets on these calls here, that's part of the Put Me in Coaching family, she had an incredible idea to make a list of 50 things she was going to do before she turned 50. And she is checking those boxes. And it's so cool to see it. And she's tracking it. So that's a goal she set. And she's tracking it. She's holding herself accountable to it. So all of these things, because that brings her joy, it gives her experiences. So it's not just about health. Like, yes, health is very important because if we're not healthy, we can't go enjoy the things we like to do as much. And so health is super important. But we have to approach it the exact same way that we do the things that we are excited about doing. You have to get excited about taking care of yourself. Why? Because that's going to allow you to do more fun things. I told y'all several weeks ago that I was really going to focus on my water intake and my supplements. And I've gotten really dialed into that. And I feel so much better. And it's because I've been intentional. I've been tracking. I've been holding myself accountable to making sure I get those things done. So, your takeaway from today and your homework for the week, your homework, if you will, but what I want you to really dial in on is what are you going to be relentless about for the next 2 weeks as we round out June and start into July? So between now and I think it's July 5th. Oh, July 4th. Between now and July 4th, right? That's 2 whole weeks between now and July 4th. What are you going to be relentless about? Because I promise you, if you get super dialed in for these next 2 weeks, when 4th of July rolls around, those cookouts are not going to be scary, right? You'll be able to go to them and have fun and enjoy, but you're not going to overdo it. So these next 2 weeks, I want you to really figure out what do you want to be relentless about for the next 2 weeks and dial in and go into 4th of July feeling amazing. Okay, so I will see you back here next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific for those of you on the West Coast. But it is always an honor and pleasure to share this platform with you. I am so grateful for each and every one of you for plugging in. What are you going to be relentless about for these next 2 weeks? I cannot wait to hear it. Drop it in the chat or send me a text message, and I will see you on your coaching sessions, or I will see you right back here next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Bye, everyone.